Hello, thank you for joining me. I want to talk about childhood and our reflections back on childhood. And I had a communication on the channel with someone a few days ago, and they said that they had written a poem. Could they share it with me? I said, yes, of course you can. Anyway, I have had their permission to share it. I'll give you a bit of background information, then I'll read the poem, and then I will carry on from there. I'll perch these on the end of my nose so that I can see the laptop. So of course it goes into let's have a sleep mode. There we are. Rather than having them up here where all you can see is the reflection. Okay, probably looks very odd, but if it helps me cope, I'm going with it. So bear with me, please. So the person who wrote the poem and gave it to me is called Arti and lives in India. They wrote it when they were in middle school, around 13 or 14 years old. And it was actually the very first poem I ever wrote. This poem came from the moment I first realized I wasn't a little kid anymore, that I was growing older. For me, poetry has always been a way to pour out emotions without fear of being judged. To others, it might just look like a poem, but to me, it has always been more than that. It's my feelings on paper. So that is the background, and obviously I have permission to read this and share it with you. They say that they were about 13 or 14. They're now 17, I did ask. And off we go. So the poem is called Hope My Childhood Comes Back. Hope those days come back when we were stress-free, when we lived cheerfully. Hope those days come back when we sat beneath the peace tree and moved so carefully. Hope those days come back when we had no tension and everyone gave us healing attention. Hope those days come back when every smile could heal, when everyone carried a simple zeal, when happiness had no seal, because it was their need just to feel. Hope those days come back. Yes, I hope my childhood comes back. And I was so pleased that they find the use of the written word and poetry useful. I always used to love working with children to include poetry in their lives and see how they tackled it. The very naive approach to it is so revealing. Their choice of words, it tells us a lot about their feelings. But I felt immensely sad when I'd read this, reflecting that a 13, 14-year-old was looking back on their childhood and longing to be back there. And I know that they are still struggling at 17. So this is something that I felt was the way that so many teenagers these days do find life hard. There are so many pressures for them, pressures that we did not have. And me and my generation, I think we had it the best. Everybody was relieved to be over the war. There wasn't much around, but what there was used to be shared quite readily. We'd make do and mend, so we were taught these skills of existing, of being, of making do. We didn't have grand expectations, and we didn't have those grand expectations thrust on us on a daily basis from our phones. Not even from the television, but our phones, so we could get that in bed anywhere, said she who used to listen to Radio Luxembourg under the covers. That was the limit of mine nighttime activities with reference to media. But now they can get so much, and so much is photoshopped. And now, of course, we've got the AI coming in, and the requirements to look good, to act well, to have done lots of things, but also to report on the minutiae of life. And that's hard for these teenagers. What were their childhoods like? Well, certainly I think of some who, the ones that I knew, with their little game machines at an early age. And they were used in lieu of, Mishka, please don't rub your chin on the camera, else it will fall over, darling. Thank you. They were used in lieu of looking at natural things. And when I questioned this, I was told, well, they'll see those things later. Okay, not my choice, but that's the way it was deemed to be. And everything is immediate. They do something, it's on Facebook. They do something, it's on Insta, on TikTok, on whatever. And those who haven't got maybe look at this and think, wow, gosh, and look at it with envy. There is so much pressure to be this person who does a lot, who eats good things, and is just the best. And life isn't like that. Or maybe it is. Maybe it's just me being old and old-fashioned again. I loved being a child, and I would love to go back there, but I wouldn't like to go back with the learning that I have now. I would like to go back to those days when things were simple, and I could learn through play. I could get dirty knowing that it would come off in the bath that night, and have fun and games without lots of equipment, without things to help us, just using our minds, our imaginations, not our thumbs and our screens. Maybe I'm overemphasizing this, but I admit it worries me. And it worries me that the gap is opening. Certainly I feel that, yes, I use IT every day for this, but beyond that, my knowledge is really very limited. And I have a phone, I have a laptop, yet there are so many people who don't. So if you're a teenager who hasn't got the IT, you must feel pressurized and often castigated by the others. I mean, there's nothing so cruel as children. I wonder if that now carries through to the teenage years. that cruelty, because of that need, that want, that perceived need to do more, to be better than anybody else, does it go without giving a leg up to someone who is less fortunate? I don't know. I'm just posting the thoughts that come into my mind and posing questions. It does concern me. It really does. And as for those children growing up in Ukraine, Sudan, anywhere that is war-torn, or places where they're having the big floods, the fires, there's a lot for our teenagers to cope with these days. And I just hope with all my heart that they have it within them to get through this as decent, caring human beings. We've got enough around in the adult world who don't come into my category there. We don't need that to be the norm, that to expand. On that note, I'm going to say I'm going to love you and leave you, and say thank you to Arti for sharing the poem. And I really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing more. I was told that I could have a look at some more, so I will like that. Thank you for joining me. Take care. Bye for now.